talk through a little bit more about this, right? You have a business that was quite attractive through 2020. This year, you're on track to do about $100 million in revenue. I'm assuming that there will be profit there off of that. And you're choosing to basically go to your user base and say, hey, you as users, you should invest rather than go to traditional venture capitalists. And so walk through kind of the logic as to why go to the user base, kind of what the philosophical belief that you have as to not go to venture capitalists and kind of just turn to the community.
Yeah, so venture capital, it's a fine way to raise money, but in reality, it's only reserved for the privileged few who are accredited investors or venture capitalists. And so we wanted to create a future where anyone can participate, whether you're an accredited investor or a non-accredited investor. And beyond that, we see a world where a situation like what happened with Robinhood and GameStop, we see a world where that can't happen. If you have stock in an application and you're not happy with how that application is working, you can just take your stock and go to another platform. Much like how crypto works today, we want to bring that same world to the world of securities and exchanges. Now, we understand it's going to be difficult because there are so much regulations surrounding here, and we have to follow all the regulations. But we believe by working with our partners, we can build a system and where it's on smart contracts on the blockchain, and we can give the same benefits for customers to have that control.
Got it. And so when you start to think through kind of the implications of this, right? Obviously, one, it provides a lot more access to both accredited and non-accredited investors, but will every company go do this? Is there some obstacle or barrier that makes it hard for them to do it? Like how do you just think of other companies and whether they should pursue this?
Yeah, so in the 2012 Jobs Act, there are two provisions that make this really lucrative for companies. So one of them is the Regulation A plus offering. That's what we're doing. It's a little more of an involved process, and it costs about $1 million or so, give or take, to actually make this a reality. And there's also the Regulation CF process that allows smaller companies to get started even sooner, and it's much cheaper. Now, the Regulation A process allows a company to raise up to $75 million, and the Regulation CF process allows a company to raise up to $5 million. Through pure crowdfunding. So we see a world where a lot of companies are going to start doing this.
And so when you look at this, the Regulation A plus allows $75 million. It's accredited and non-accredited investors, but there's a couple of maybe kind of safeguards, if you will, put on these investors. Talk through, for those that are listening that may be interested, what exactly are the kind of requirements or safeguards for those two investor types?
Yeah, so as a person would expect, for accredited investors, an accredited investor can invest as much as they want. Now, the SEC for non-accredited investors has said that they have a maximum, non-accredited investors are allowed only to invest a maximum of 10% of their net worth or 10% of their income. And so that's one of the safeguards that the SEC has put in place.
Amazing. And so as we kind of continue to see this, talk about the tokenization of the shares as well, right? Because one piece of this is, hey, I'm going to use existing regulations that are in place and I'm going to use it to my advantage. I'm going to go out, I'm going to raise capital. But now what you're talking about is you're basically talking about on the back end, tokenizing the shares rather than having them done kind of the more traditional way. What is the advantage to you to do this, and what's the advantage to the investor?
Yeah, so the advantage to the investor, again, for the future is control. And that in having those stocks to actually not have to worry if the system goes down, can take the stocks and go anywhere else. It doesn't exist right at this moment, but that's an advantage in the future. In the short term, one of the other big advantages is transparency. So the cap table becomes completely transparent, at least in how it's distributed amongst people. But one of the things that we're facing with tokenizing on the blockchain is that we were originally looking at Ethereum, and we were settled with Ethereum. And then we just found out a couple weeks ago that it was going to cost up to $9 million to issue our stock on Ethereum. And that's due to the high gas prices. And so we're currently shopping around for other blockchains to do this.
Yeah. And so when you think about kind of the tokenization component, are there issues there on the regulatory front or still obstacles and complexities that you need to work through? Or is it pretty straightforward in terms of how regulators think about this and kind of what they'll allow and they won't allow?
Yeah, and there are definitely obstacles, but we're working with a great partner over at Securitize, and what they've done is they are a registered transfer agent and licensed with the SEC. So that means that they have the ability to do this, and they have blended through a world of smart contracts. And so there are challenges. It's not as easy as just I'm going to send my shares to somebody else that's not registered in the securitized smart contract. So there's definitely challenges, and then it gets even more challenging when we have to integrate this technology with other third parties like T0, which is a trading system, or Merge, which is a trading system for people outside the United States. And so we have to integrate all three of these systems together while following the regulations and use the smart contracts.
Got it. And so when you think about the $75 million that's coming in, there's advantages to both you and to the investor in terms of the way you're doing it. So both Reg A plus and then tokenization, but you're still getting $75 million, right, of equity capital. What are you going to do with the money?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that we're going to do is we're going to reinvest in the product with like everything that we do. And so we're going to make the product so that a person can buy cryptocurrency anywhere in the world. Because if our, as our mission is to exit the traditional financial system and help the world do that, we have to make it easy for a person in any country in the world to actually buy cryptocurrency, whether that's with a bank account, whether that's with a credit card. And a lot of people don't have bank accounts or credit cards. And so we have to find ways to actually make it legal and accessible for them to do this with cash. And so that's where a big use of the money is going to go to. And then in addition to that, DeFi and making DeFi really simple to use and, making NFTs simple to use. That's going to be a big component. And then, of course, marketing. And then finally, there's going to be, I think you'll see some strategic acquisitions that we'll be interested in at some point in time.
Got it. And so as you think kind of moving forward, how big is the team today and how will that change as you continue to invest in the product?
So today the team is 116 people. And it was, I think, back in December where we were at just about 70 people. And so it's just, we've just grown so fast, and we anticipate that this thing is going to continue throughout 2021 and all the objectives that we're going to do with the secondary trading systems and making DeFi easy and all these sorts of things. We anticipate by the end of the year, it's very conceivably that we could be well over 250 people. And so this thing feels like a rocket ship, and we're along for the ride, and it's been a lot of fun.
I love it. What's the biggest obstacle that you're going to face? Like, what's the thing that keeps you awake at night as you continue to build the company, even though you've had all the success and things look very, positive looking forward? What's the thing that keeps you awake?
The biggest thing right now is working with the regulators to make sure that we have a framework that allows people to use these systems and allows people to actually own equity in companies. That's the biggest obstacle right now. And we've been working with the SEC on this, and we're going to continue to work with the SEC on this. And unfortunately, it seems that as time goes on, the regulators have held much more of an open mind about things. And so that's been great to see. But that's by far the biggest obstacle, is making sure the regulators are comfortable with what we're doing and how this is all going to work is the biggest obstacle.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And then talk to me about kind of the team in general. Is it, I know it's remote, but is it mostly US? Is it international? How is the kind of team broken down?
So most of the team is actually international. We have 40 some people in the United States, and the rest is completely international. But the cool thing is that we pay U.S. salaries no matter where you live. It doesn't matter if you live in a country with the lowest cost of standard of living. We still pay U.S. salaries everywhere. In fact, we anchor our salaries to the Denver, Colorado market, and so we anchor it no matter where you live, because we don't want somebody to get paid more, whether you live in San Francisco or New York, or get paid less, again, if you live in a very cheap place. You should be paid a fair wage wherever you live. And another cool thing is we have 100% transparent salaries and 100% transparent cap table. So everybody in the company can see what everybody else is making. And so what that does is that allows, or that forces us as a company to be aggressive in ensuring that our people are happy and not, having to feel the need to go get a job offer somewhere else and then get some counter offer from us, because every single person's salary is transparent.
Yeah. And how do you keep track of that? Like, is it just posted on like an Excel sheet somewhere? Is there a dashboard? Like that's a really fascinating way to look at kind of, eliminating internal politics.
It's just on an Excel spreadsheet. But one of our visions is to actually become the most transparent company in the world. And so what that means to us is that, when we have this Regulation A public offering and we become effectively a public company, we don't want there to be any difference between, insider trading or not. We want everything to be public. So the moment an event happens, it goes up on a website. Everything that we're doing, it goes up on our website so that we can be transparent about everything. And we've always found that transparency is a part of our ethos. Transparency really brings in trust. And I think that's really important to building a company.
I think it's very important. So I tend to agree with you. Before we get into the rapid fire questions, when people ask you, what is Exodus? Just give us kind of the 1 or 2 sentence pitch and then tell us where people can go to download the product.
Now, Exodus is the easiest to use cryptocurrency wallet that allows you to send, receive, and exchange cryptocurrency. You go to exodus.com to view more, or Exodus_IO at Twitter.
That is a pretty concise elevator pitch. Tells me that's not the first time you've ever done that.